One of the obstacles or potential obstacles that could slow you down or even prevent you from speaking well is, believe it or not, your identity. That is, how you see yourself in different speaking situations around different people. How you currently see yourself could actually become an obstacle to you becoming a brand new, excellent speaker. One of the things that I've discovered in working with clients is that they often have this current identity, and we'll talk about what that means and how to change it, is that they have this current identity of who they are supposed to be. I'm going to write that word down because that's important. Who they are supposed to be in certain situations around certain people. So that is, they believe, because they've always been this way, or at least they've been this way for a while, they believe that they're supposed to act a certain way or to speak a certain way or respond a certain way in certain situations around certain people. Even, now watch this, even when they have the ability to act or speak differently. So what happens is when they learn their new speaking style, when they develop a new speaking style and they're able to access it, they're able to use it, they choose not to because it feels uncomfortable, it feels different, or it doesn't feel right, or because of what the other person or people might say or what they might think. So these are very, very real obstacles that literally can slow down or prevent a person from speaking well. So what we're going to do in this session and in the next session is we're going to talk about transforming your identity, because you can learn everything else. I mean, you can practice and become really an excellent speaker, but there's this one obstacle or potential obstacle that could screech everything to a stop, right? And right there, if a person chooses not to use their new speaking style, there's nothing that anyone can do. It's a choice that they've made. Now, I know you're probably saying, well, why do I have to choose to use a new speaking style? Well, choosing to use a new speaking style is a bridge to using the new speaking style automatically. It's a bridge, and we'll talk about that in making the transition or transforming your presentation style to your conversation style, making that transition. We'll talk about that in the assessment. Just remember, making that choice every time you open your mouth is a bridge. And so if you don't make the choice, you won't cross the bridge, right? And crossing the bridge means doing it automatically without thinking. So let's talk about transforming your identity. What is identity? Identity, in this sense, is how you see yourself, right? It's how you see yourself as a speaker, as a person in different situations. Identity is what you believe about yourself. That is how you believe you're supposed to speak, how you believe you're supposed to act in different situations. And this belief is often based on previous experiences, how you have acted, how you have felt and thought and responded. It's also based on how you perceive or how you think other people perceive you, how you think other people think or believe you should act. Okay? So it's how you see yourself, it's how you think about yourself, it's how you believe you should act. It's also how you think other people see you, how you think other people believe you should act in different situations. So let's take a look at what this actually kind of means. You have several what we call roles, and we'll call these actually speaking roles. Since we're talking about speaking, this also applies to relationships. In fact, I'll use an example of relationships so that you can see the relationship between the two. I used to be a relationship coach for many years. I've been married over, 24 years now. I'm actually, at the recording of this video, 46. So I've been married a while, and I've been, doing lots of things for a number of years. And one of the things that we find, and I'll use this example to help demonstrate what I'm talking about. Have you ever noticed when people get married, things change, right? When people get married, things tend to change, not in every marriage, and depending on how things are in your culture as well. But why do things tend to change when people get married? One reason is because the roles change. The roles change when they get married. So what happens is that they see the role their parents played, because how do we learn how to be who we are in relationships? We learn it from watching people around us. We learn it primarily from watching our parents, if we had both parents. If we don't learn it from them, then we learn it from TV, we learn it from music, from our friends and family, so forth. But we learn it from watching our parents. And so when we're in a, say, boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, we act one way. But once it moves into marriage, both people now change roles, so therefore things change in their relationship. They didn't change, the roles change. So they go back in their mind and say, how am I supposed to act? How am I supposed to act in this new role? And so they look back and they pull it together, and so they start acting differently. All right? So that's what we're talking about when we talk about roles. That's an example. How does this apply to speaking? Well, if you've been stuttering for quite a while, then you, in your mind, have a role that you've been playing for how you speak in different situations. Right? So you have these roles in different situations. And these roles are like, you may have a role for how you are or how you speak as a parent, as a child, and this is, if you're adult, you're still the child of someone, as a sibling, right? As a, let's see, as a student, right? Roles how you, as an employee, as an employer, as a community member, as a community member, okay? And there may be some other roles or sub-roles. So look at this now. So you have a way that you see yourself when you're in each of these roles, a way that you've spoken in each of these roles. So therefore, you may not stutter, and I'm even going to add another one, I'm going to add social, right? So some people don't stutter when they're in certain social situations. Some people only stutter around their parents. Some people only stutter when they are around brothers and sisters. They may not stutter when they're at work. They may not stutter when they're in a community situation. So people act in different ways depending on the different roles that they're playing, the different beliefs that they've carried in terms of how they're supposed to speak when they're in that situation. So the problem comes in that when they develop this new ability to speak well, the problem comes in terms of, how do I change my identity now around my parents? How do I change it as a student? What will my friends say? What will my employees say? So that's the question that happens. One of my clients actually told me that he was, using his new style, and his wife said, well, why are you speaking like that? Why are you trying to speak like Michael Williams? I don't like it, I don't like it. And he was kind of like, what do I do? I said, you have to keep using your new speaking style. And it's not a matter of speaking like me, it's a matter of using your new speaking, that is speaking proactively. So I said, you just have to do it. She will get used to it, just like she got used to you getting stuck and stuttering. She's going to get used to the new speaking style, and she's probably going to like it. Some people tell me, well, what are my friends going to say? Especially if they're younger, what are my friends going to say? What are my boss? And sometimes people don't say this, they don't articulate this, but they're thinking their friends or their family or their employers are going to think it's strange. Now, once you think about this, what's more strange? What's more weird? Stuttering, getting stuck, not being able to say things, or using a new speaking style, that's not weird at all. In fact, people will be amazed, in most cases, amazed at how well you speak. Some people may be used to you speaking a certain way, but when you start speaking more smoothly and fluently and confidently, they'll be amazed. And if they're not, they don't need to be your friends, right? What if they're your family? If they're your family, eventually they're going to learn to either appreciate the way you speak, or you simply limit your association with them, or you just learn how to deal with it. But either way, you have to live your own life, even if it's in the same household. You have to be able to go out and communicate. So whatever you need to do, as long as it's not hurting anyone else or infringing upon them, you have to do what you have to do to transform your identity to speak well. So if someone's telling you, that's weird, or don't speak like that, you have to gently and lovingly tell them, I need to do this because I need to be able to speak well. Well, what happened with my client is that his wife eventually just really appreciated the way, because it improved his relationship, right? He had to literally transform his identity around his wife and around his children. So his children appreciated, his wife appreciated. He was able to communicate better. Maybe times where he would get frustrated trying to communicate, he now no longer gets frustrated, right? At least not as much. So this is a very real thing. You have an identity in all of these different situations, in all of these different roles that you play. So what you have to learn how to do is you have to learn how to change your identity within that role, or in a sense, play a different role, right? So the current role that you're playing as a parent, as a child, employee, employer, community member, student, whatever, the current role you're playing says that I stutter, or I get stuck, or I'm not able to do this because I stutter. So what you have to do is change the way you're playing that role. Change the way you're playing that role. Does that make sense? This is so critical, as I said before, and you'll hear me reiterate this, because you can learn all of this, and I see this so many times. This system absolutely works. If you do it, you will learn, number one, you will learn how to present well. Number two, you will be able to use that presentation style whenever you need to. You will be able to use a conversational style, right, when you're conversing. But the only thing that will keep you from doing it is feeling uncomfortable, or feeling like it doesn't fit, like it's not you. Of course it's uncomfortable. Of course it's not you. You're changing your identity, right? You're changing who you are in that role, who you've been in that role. So of course it's not going to feel uncomfortable. Some other people are not necessarily going to like it. Now, a question that I asked earlier is, which is more weird? Is it getting stuck or speaking well? But I can tell you, probably what's more uncomfortable, what's more weird, is getting stuck and stuttering and so forth. But what happens is that people tend to get comfortable with something that's actually uncomfortable. It's something I call a comfortable uncomfortability. It's when you get comfortable, when you get used to something that's not really comfortable, like stuttering. They get used to it, it becomes theirs, they own it, it's kind of who they think they are, so they get comfortable. It's like their comfort zone. And our brains try to maintain a balance even in difficult situations, right? It tries to maintain a balance. We call this homeostasis. It wants to maintain a balance no matter what situation. It wants to bring us into balance. So when we try to change, it becomes very uncomfortable. We feel out of balance, just like a baby learning to walk. They're out of balance until they learn to walk, and then they're more balanced, okay? So it's the same thing. When you're transforming your identity, you're going to feel off balance, out of sync. It's not going to feel comfortable. The other thing that's happening is you're forging new neural pathways. And this process necessitates that you feel uncomfortable. You must feel uncomfortable. You must feel a little, this just doesn't feel right, doesn't feel like me. It's not you, because you're literally developing these new pathways, these new connections, And so it's literally creating a new you. And this growth process can be painful, can be frustrating, and it's not very comfortable, but it's absolutely necessary to get you to where you need to be. So once again, the question is, how do we change how we play these different roles? How do we make that change? And once you learn how to do it, then it's going to be up to you to actually do that as you make this transition, as you transition into a smoother, more fluent, more confident speaker. So that's what we're going to look at in the next session, in the next video.